Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Friday to you all. I am so super pumped to be here today. So pumped, in fact, that I actually have an actual shirt with a collar and a tie on a Friday morning. So this is how excited I am. It's sort of like for me in my faith tradition, like Christmas morning when you go to unwrap a bunch of big fancy presents. I am so excited to celebrate you all and with you all today for PMA 27. It has been, oh, not 27. What am I talking? I just want to see if you all are paying attention. So PMA number 10. It just feels like we're in 27. But anyway, PMA 10, you all have done such an amazing job. Um, it was a small but mighty cohort. I just wanted to say, like, even though we had a smaller group than we typically had, I really appreciate everything that you all brought to the sessions every time, the lively conversations, the thoughtful projects that you all are putting together, and the camaraderie that we developed, even though it was online. And look forward to not only to celebrate you for today, but on the 20th, as we have our second session there, but also looking forward to the next step, with your journey in Leadership Academy, or just the next phase of your career, that hopefully that we all can stay in touch, and that you learn some new skills and tools and partnerships and relationships that you can take forward. So just want to start on that note that I am super pumped. I'm actually taking a chill pill because I've been like super hyper lately and I don't want to be obnoxious. Um, but I just can't wait to get the party started. I want to do a couple things. I want to say thank you. Thank you to the participants. This has been a lot of time on Zoom, a lot of time offline, working on your projects, a lot of time doing the homework. And you all have full-time jobs. You all have inside responsibilities at your work. You got outside responsibility with your communities and your families. And it was a major commitment to participate. And I want to say thank you for investing in yourselves, contributing back to your organization, and paying it forward as far as the benefits to your projects that we're going to see here. I want to thank all the sponsoring organizations that have sponsored your participation today. Without their support, obviously, we wouldn't be here. And also the financial commitment and the work release that they extended to you is a major commitment on their part, really for the investment into you, so that you can continue to grow and learn as a leader, matriculate in the organizations. And we're really just proud and honored to have this partnership with all of our stakeholders throughout the state of Ohio. Next, I want to thank and recognize the OCPM board, and our staff. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that make this thing rock and roll, that we keep the train on the tracks. You will see, or you may have seen Alexandra Higgle-Timms. You obviously might see myself and Kat, but there's also Nina from our team and some other folks from the budget, finance office, things like that. So there's a lot of people that are behind the scenes that you have probably never met, but there's a lot of people that make this go. We also have a statewide advisory board group that is representative of many of the agencies that have sent you today. And we meet on a regular basis, quarterly, to talk about what's going on with the programs, look for ways to improve it, to expand it. And again, without their support, we wouldn't be officially now in 2 locations in the state of Ohio, and major expansion plans for 24. And then finally, I want to end with thank you to your family. I know that there's a lot of commitment that's here, and probably some outside work that you put into this, and the support and from your family, from the pets that were part of the program. They are all part of this as well. And I just want to say thanks, and that this is all a big family, and we're really glad that you made the commitment to join us for this experience. So that's why I want today to be a celebration. It's a culmination of the program, and it's really to celebrate everything you've done throughout the last year. Next, I want to talk about the run of show, like what's going to happen today and how you're going to participate, and kind of you're providing feedback, and comments and support for the participants throughout the day. Number one, each participant, when it's their time to come, will be promoted up to a panelist, and then they will be able to launch their presentation, whether it's a Prezi or Canva or PowerPoint. They will present their material, and then at the end, we'll have a Q&A section. There'll be an opportunity for you to put some comments or some questions in the Q&A box, and that's going to be our primary way for us to communicate with each other, especially those who are panelists. We really encourage you to ask questions, to make comments and support and provide that information in the Q&A. But also we have an evaluation piece that is also going to be shared with you throughout the presentation. Each participant has their own unique evaluation link and their own evaluation code. Kat will drop that in the chat as each presenter starts their presentation. So we need you to provide some feedback through that evaluation and make sure that you are staying on track with that you have the right link for the right person, because at the end of the presentations, we will send the report back to the presenter with all the feedback from the audience members. Now that's definitely cohort members, but any guests that are here as well, feel free to share any kind of feedback. The reason why we are really particular that we want the evaluation piece is that we want the participant to actually consider if there is any constructive feedback or suggestions, to use that information to put that in their final written report. Speaking of the report will be due 1 month from the last presentation, which is on October 20th. So the written reports will be due on November 20th, 2023. So please know that you have about a month or so after we get done with the presentations to get that wrapped up. If there's any concerns with your paper or presentations during that time, feel free to reach out to our team, and we're happy to assist you along the way. Kat, I want to say that Kat will be monitoring the Q&A part of in between each session, each report, and so she'll be monitoring those, and we'll be the one articulating them back to the participants. So she'll be assisting with us along the way. For me, I want to let you know that we know that it's going to be a long day on Zoom, so please feel free to take breaks if necessary. Come in and out. We do have an official break at 10:15 to 10:30. So that will be our one official break. But if you wanted to take a break or need to take a phone call, we completely understand that. But we just would request that you participate as much as you possibly can. But we know that sitting in the chair all morning is going to be rough. So do the best that you can. Right here is the schedule of events. And we should be wrapped up by 12:50 or so at the very latest, especially if I can keep it to a minimum, which I promise that I will. So that wraps up a lot of my main points. Before we start to transition and bring the first person up, I did want to just go through some logistics. As you conclude this part, after you submit your written report, it will be reviewed by our staff members and also a member or two of our advisory board. And it will be either, accepted as is, and you will be notified and you'll be done with your commitment. Or if there's any kind of revisions or additional information, it'll be submitted back to you with a rubric, an evaluation rubric that will define or give detail as to if there is any kind of issue. So we do have a whole evaluation process for the written report, and that will commence once all the papers have been submitted. I expect that to be done around the holidays, or right after that. So we hopefully will be wrapped up with all of the responses and the information about the reports by the beginning of 2024. Last thing I want to say is that if there's any we will be sending you transcripts. So if there's any missed courses or any missed assignments or anything that you need to make up, you can get that information from our team. We'll be forwarding transcripts to you all shortly, and we're happy to assist you with closing out any PMA items. And then if you're interested in taking the Leadership Academy track, we can also help you with those things. So I think that's enough for my babbling right now. I do want to shout out, we do have several guests in the audience. And now I see folks that are from previous cohorts. There are some folks in there from our new cohorts. So I'm not going to call out everybody by name because it'll take too long, but welcome everyone. I hope that you enjoy these presentations. Hope you learn something. And for those folks that are going to be presenting down the road, I may want to take some notes because these are fantastic projects.
Thank you, Rob, for that warm welcome. So
Well,
our first presenter today will be Dawn Zwetzig. Dawn is from the State of Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Dawn, would you like to screen share?
Yes. Good morning. Good morning again. My name is Dawn Zwetzig, and I again reiterate, I work for the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. I am a District 1 chief, and that's my title. So my project is Hands-Free BMV. This is the project I have been presenting. It identifies the capabilities of our state vehicles and our technology and our phones currently used by state employees to become hands-free and to uphold this law. And also part of this project is to provide necessary equipment for state workers to easily use the hands-free law. A key element is part of this training part of the key element of this project is the training of and how to use your devices effectively. So according to the state of Ohio, the Highway Patrol, we want, as public safety members, we want to be safe, right? And when you're driving a vehicle, the state of Ohio wants you to drive a vehicle. They don't want you to be distracted. And those that have been distracted, you can see the numbers here, over upwards of 60,000 crashes a year. People have been injured, like over 5,000. So this is a really important thing. And these numbers are highly unreported, significantly unreported. Just to give an overview of government in a thumbnail sketch is that whenever I have like a new hire or a new college intern, I always try to pull out my umbrella, and I use the umbrella as a good analogy of how government works. So at the top of my umbrella is the governor, and then from the governor, there's lots of different state agencies. The Department of Public Safety, there's ODOT, there's education, there's insurance. There's a number of different agencies that the governor oversees. And then my second umbrella that I pull out is the Department of Public Safety. So this is the Shipley building, what you see here, and that's the headquarters for the Department of Public Safety. Under that umbrella, we have the Ohio BMV, we have the Highway Patrol, we have other agencies like EMA and EMS and Ohio Homeland Security, to name a few. So that's a little bit just logistically of how you can envision how government works. And then from there in the Ohio BMV, my job is to operate or oversee license bureaus throughout the state of Ohio. So the way that Ohio sets it up is every license bureau in the state of Ohio is owned and operated by an individual or a nonprofit group. So like here, you can see some photos. These are people, they do not work for the state of Ohio. They are small business owners. And so my job, I work for the state, is we and my staff, we go into the license bureaus because, issuing driver's licenses and license plates and tags, those are very important jobs. And we want to make sure that everybody's doing a great job and following all the rules and all the laws in the state. So there's there's 4 teams throughout the state in 4 different districts. And we go into these license bureaus and we double check everything. We make sure that everything that's being issued, all the policies, all the laws, they're all being upheld. So throughout the state, there's 43 field staffers that go into these license bureaus and double check everything. We cover 88 counties, and all told, there's 168 agencies throughout the whole state of Ohio. So as you can imagine, with all that responsibility, there's a lot of driving to be done. just in my district alone with 17 districts in Northeast Ohio, you know, sometimes it takes, I have a lot of inner city because we got Cleveland, we got Youngstown. So my drives aren't as long, but if you go out in District 4 over there, you can imagine when you're traveling from one agency to the next, it's a lot of rural. So they could be upwards of an hour driving, 45 minutes between two agencies and whatnot. So that's a little explanation of how we operate. And so now we're going to talk about the new law. So the new law went into effect in April. And I think that I'm going to hopefully guess that most of you have all seen the advertisements and the marketing for it, but it is now illegal to hold or use a cell phone or electronic device in your hand, lap, or other parts of your body while driving on Ohio roads. And then most recently, even though this law went into effect in April, they kind of gave us a grace period, and you may have been seeing it in the last week or two. Now the law is enforceable. So now it is ticketable and there can be fines. So what's off limits? What does this law mean? Well, you can't use your phone, you can't dial a phone number, you can't send a text message, you know, browse social media. And you think these things are common sense, right? I shouldn't be able to browse the internet while I'm driving or watch a YouTube video or TikTok. But people do it. This is why we need a law, I guess, because of back to those first initial figures that we sent, that I showed you, the 60,000. And that's, you know, like we said, it's grossly underestimated in those numbers. So yeah, you can't play games, you can't, you know, record or stream a video, you can't video or FaceTime while you're driving. Now there are some exceptions, notable exceptions to this law, and the one of, again, public safety, reporting an emergency. You can absolutely pick up your phone and report an emergency. You know, first responders and utility workers, their job duties require them to potentially use a phone while they're being dispatched. But then for us, the normal people, I guess, you can hold your phone to your ear for conversations. And then you are allowed to use your phone while you're stopped at a traffic light or parked on the side of the road for an emergency or a road closure. So as you can see, this is one of our state cars in our fleet. All the workers that I showed you earlier, we drive state cars, state vehicles, and you can identify easily a state vehicle by the state plates. It's a red and white plate. And so especially for us, you know, we feel like the governor is our boss, right? So we want to make sure that while we're driving a state vehicle, that we're being good role models for the state of Ohio, because people can, you know, pass us on the roads and see us, you know, what we're doing and double checking on us, I guess. But in our vehicles, the majority of us in field staffers for the BMV, we carry two phones. And the reason why is because, and myself included, is we have a personal phone and a work phone. The state of Ohio tells us straight out that, hey, there's no expectation of privacy on your work phone. So a lot of us say, hey, listen, we want to keep our work and our, you know, personal life personal. So that's why we carry two phones each. And that, you know, adds another layer, another hurdle to upholding this law when you're having two devices on the vehicle. Some of our deliverables, my deliverables for this project, because going hands-free and maintaining communication, it's a struggle. It's not easy. And we're on the road so much that I wanted to take on this project to try to, you know, eliminate some of those hurdles. Again, we want to model good behavior while we're behind the wheel, and stay in communication during travel while upholding the law. I wanted to find reasons for, or ways, I should say, for our staff to easily uphold the law. Proper training will enhance the use of our devices and removing barriers to going fully hands-free. So one of the things that I did initially in the project was complete a survey and ask a lot of questions from our staff. You know, how do you use hands-free? You know, what kind of devices do you have? What kind of vehicles do you have? How familiar with the law are you? So the familiarity with the law was very high. Most of us have taken some measures to go hands-free. to easily make and take phone calls hands-free. But I also realize that can mean one thing to one person and another thing to another. Some people know how to use their Bluetooth within their car. Some just use a speakerphone on their cell phones, things like that. We also identified that some of our vans and older models were not equipped with any Bluetooth. So that was a key part of this project. So the first thing I was able to complete or find for our staff were iPhone cords. So we have iPhone, all of the state phones are iPhones that we are commissioned. And so we got iPhone cords to connect the vehicles directly to our phones, and then it can go through the Apple CarPlay on the cars that had the Bluetooth. The next thing that I researched and found were the cell phone mounts. So cell phone mounts can easily let a user access their phone with one-touch capability. And the next thing another piece of equipment that we identified was the Bluetooth earpieces. So the Bluetooth earpieces would allow drivers to utilize both work and personal phones with one touch. The sound quality is typically better with these devices than some of the surround sounds in the vehicles. It eliminates a lot of the car noise. Bluetooth adapter speakerphones were also identified as they're small, inexpensive, and they work great as an alternative in cars without the capability of Bluetooth. So they're about this big, and they can fit on the little sun visor up top, and they work really great. So I found 3 cell phone car mounts, and we tested them, and honestly, all 3 of them failed at some point. The best one I think we found was the cup phone holder. That one worked pretty well, except if you had a vehicle that had a gear, like a shifter that interrupted with it. The other one on the mirror worked well until it didn't. So we're still researching that a little bit to find the best one out there. The iPhone cords were ordered and distributed, and the Bluetooth earpieces are still being researched. The next steps were the Bluetooth is set up with the phones. Review the Bluetooth setup with phones and the earpieces. Practice switching between phones. Practice locking the cell phone screens so you can't use your phone while in the vehicle. And review how to use the buttons on the steering wheel versus the in-car screen, because some are easier for others and some are easier. Some people prefer the steering wheel, some people prefer the screen in the car. And to show how to set up navigation, music, podcasts, audiobooks easily with the Apple CarPlay. And then again, to review the policies and procedures and the law. And I'll do that with a one-on-one appraisal. So what about you? How can you set up this law? How can you, take away from this project? Well, the transportation, this website here, the www.transportation.ohio.gov/phones-down has a crazy amount of great information on there. And it's a really great interactive website. So I would highly recommend, if you're interested in this, that you could go there and find some more information.
Awesome job, Dawn. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you.
So I'd like to go ahead and put it out there to you in the audience. If everyone could go to the bottom of the screen and hover your little arrow, you'll see a Q&A spot. So we would love some questions for Dawn. If you could go ahead and put your questions right in that Q&A spot, that would be awesome. And then additionally, I did put an evaluation link in the chat. PMA 10, you are required to fill out an evaluation for each and every presentation. If you are just a guest today, we would love to hear your feedback as well. This feedback will really help the presenters, especially as they're preparing for their written report. Okay, I'm going to monitor the Q&A and wait for some questions.
Well, I just want to say congratulations, Dawn. I've been thinking about you the last couple of weeks, not just as far as getting prepared for today, but I've been on the phone and on the road, both of those combinations quite a bit lately, because we know we're getting back into the real world, as far as post-COVID, and I'm going up and down 71, And I'm purposely, obviously, not doing the handhold stuff, but I got things plugged in and I got phones everywhere, and then I get texts and phone calls. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such an important thing.
Mhm.
For two, I've been monitoring. I'm not sure if you're in contact with the highway patrol, but it seems like there's a lot more police officers on the road since this thing went active. So I'm wondering if they're on the lookout for this. I don't know if that's a question or a comment, or maybe you don't want to comment. I don't know, but it seems like there's more of a presence, if if the police are monitoring it now.
I don't know that officially, but it makes sense. It makes sense that they would do that since it is brand new, the enforceable. And they have updated their marketing campaign, I've noticed.
And I have more of a comment than a question. I just think that this is such a timely thing. I mean, obviously, it just launched, but the one thing now that I'm driving on the road more, people are absolutely crazy. I see people on their phones not paying attention to the road, and then other people driving like 90, 100 miles an hour, like just going flying by everybody. And it's like, I do not feel safe, in the current situation right now. So I believe that this law is appropriate. And even though I might be guilty of it every once in a while, we have to do something to protect the folks on the road. And especially, I give you a lot of credit for your team to protect your team and do, so that your staff have the resources that they need to do their jobs, successfully and safely. So just want to say thanks. So Kat, over to you.
Okay, so we do have a few questions and some comments. First, Brandon asked, do you know what the penalties are for being caught using your phone? I think we're all wondering that, Dawn.
I didn't write that down, but the answer that came to my head was $250 fine, like initially. So I want to say there's a monetary fine, and it's probably a couple $100 initially.
Okay, great. Thanks for that answer. Moving on, Diane. Diane asked, how would we as state employees implement this throughout the state for all state employees that travel for their work?
Yeah, well, I think you'd have to go through your supervisor, because this is how, we got it to this point, is to go through our supervisor. And I know like the patrol took some things into their own hands. So it has to come through your management.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. We have just a comment here from John. John says, great presentation, Dawn. We're having the same trouble with the snowplow operators. Great examples, and this will help me out with the guys that are on their phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what snowplows are like inside, but those little speaker phones, that they're about $15. They work really well with your cell phone. So
great. Okay, let's see. We have Erica Thomas. Just curious if this also applies to state highway patrol and using a laptop while driving.
Yeah, I think it does. Back in the exceptions, the notable exceptions, I believe that law enforcement would, it precludes them.
Okay, and we've got a question here from Zakia Wright. Great presentation. Will this law be added as part of the driver's education training, especially with young adults?
Yes, so there's definitely a campaign on there, and I know that we've I can't speak to actual driver training, but I'm going to guess there is a push for that. And I know that the state has issued some new pamphlets that we give out in our agencies with typics or temporary packets. So yeah, I know that they are pushing it. I can't imagine that the driving training schools, they skip those.
We've got Corey said, consider trying a phone holder that attaches to the vent. Amazing job, Dawn. Did you try one of those yet?
I haven't tried that kind. Yeah.
Okay.
We tried the stick on and the mirror and the cup holder. So I'll try that. I'll try that next.
Thank you, Corey. And then finally, Diane said, maybe present this to the governor.
Yes. All right.
Awesome. Well, that wraps it up. Thank you so much, Dawn. You really did an amazing job. And thanks for everyone for participating with the questions. We will take 5 minutes and come back for Stephanie Philibert. Go ahead.
I want to give an update. I went online. I'm not sure if these are the official fines, but I found this online real quick. Just for my friends out in the audience, and especially for me. It says, according to the Ohio Department of Public Safety, the reprimands include up to $150 fine for the first offense in 2 years with 2 points assessed to your driver's license, up to $250 for the second offense in 2 years with 3 points assessed to your driver's license, and up to $500 for the third or more offenses in 2 years. So you're right, Dawn. It is a couple $100 plus the points on your license. So I didn't mean to drag on your presentation, but I do think that this is a serious matter. And for me, when you start talking about money, that really hits, it gets my attention. So anyway, congratulations. And it's been a pleasure working with you, and we'll look forward to working with you in Leadership Academy. So great job.
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Rob, just a quick question. We have the next presenter slated to start at 9:40. Do you want to keep to that schedule?
I do.
Okay.
Let's actually come back at let's come back at 9:40 so everybody gets a chance to get a break. And then if there's any guests that are coming in to see Stephanie, they will be on, within that time frame. So
Perfect.
let's just take a break. How about we come back
Okay.
at 9:35 to get everybody rocking and rolling?
Excellent. We're going to pause recording and we will be back at 9:35. And we're back. Hi, everyone. If you are new and just joining us, I will post the program in the chat for you. It looks like we might have had a couple new joiners, so I will go ahead and do that in just a moment. We're going to go ahead and get started with our next presenter. So I'd like to introduce Stephanie Philibert from the City of Cleveland.
My name is Stephanie Philibert. I work for the City of Cleveland. I've worked for the City of Cleveland since 2013. I started out doing prevailing wage projects, which are large federally funded construction projects that require that workers all get paid a certain rate. I had to verify what everybody was paid on a job, and luckily there's software for that. So, and then I moved on to processing loans and grants for small and medium businesses. And now, as staff left the department, I assumed managing various processes like legislation and payroll, which gives me the opportunity now to streamline those processes. This is a picture of City Hall. I decided to spice up my presentation by adding a few photographs. Cleveland City Council is where legislation is presented. It is a body which began with 3 trustees chosen to make laws for the township. It started in 1802. Currently, there is now 17 council members that review legislation. This is where I work. Room 210 on the 2nd floor of Cleveland City Hall. That's where the magic happens. I should have probably taken a picture of myself, but I was the one taking the photo. So, all right. So my project, it's a legislative guidebook. It's a step-by-step user guide describing the legislation process and what documents and actions and communications are required to move legislation forward through the approval process. It's a comprehensive legislation guidebook. So when I first took on the role of legislative liaison, the process was kind of messy. This is what it looked like to me from the outside. So I cared about the project because it was messy and I thought that I would be able to clean it up. So there was no formalized training. There are instructions on different pieces of paper. There's only one key person I could ask for help in law, but if that person was not available, I had difficulty. So it was kind of trial by fire. It was very stressful. I had instructions saved in different digital locations and multiple files. So here is an example of, like, I had little pieces of paper that were handed to me from different folks. And of course, as the software changed, the instructions changed, and that's why you see different edits. And so I had to ask for patience from my coworker as I learned the process. And there was, of course, tension because it was my job to get it. It was my job to get it right. So there was anxiety from making a mistake, and mistakes mean that, multi-million-dollar projects can get delayed, and every day costs money. Every day costs money to a developer. So those were the problems that I faced. So what is legislation? Legislation is the act or process of lawmaking. It is definitely a process. It's a simple term describing a complicated, multi-day, multi-step physical process requiring emails and documents and communication between departments over the span of a month to gain approval for a project. For my department, it's obtaining approval for financial assistance provided to projects for-profit businesses and nonprofit organizations for projects over $250,000. Projects under that amount can be approved internally by the director. So legislation has to be approved by multiple committee meetings, committee hearings. And this is just a photograph of one of those hearings. So why is getting this process right so important? It's because before a department can enter into a loan or grant contract over $250,000 to a nonprofit or a for-profit organization, ED needs to pass legislation. So before we can give money to an organization in amounts over $250,000, we have to pass legislation in order to do so. So to get perspective, some statistics. So annually in all of City Hall, about 400 pieces of legislation are processed totally. So that's about 35 pieces a month. For economic development, it's about 30 to 40 pieces of legislation over the process of a year. And to get perspective, that is about, it represents over about 100 million in allocations to different projects. So it's managing a lot of, the legislation manages a lot of money. So Cleveland City Council is a lawmaking body. It includes council members which approve all legislation. Again, that's about 400 a year. Cleveland City Council is the elected legislative body of the city responsible for writing and enacting city laws known as ordinances. There are 17 council members. These are the current council members serving in council. It represents 17 wards of Cleveland. They each serve a 4-year term, and there's approximately 25,000 people on each ward. And usually before we can present a project to council, we have to get the councilman's letter of approval for the project. So my goal for the project is streamlining the process by providing all directions in one location, reducing stress for all those involved, and providing clarity. So that's my goal for this project. So all the instructions and all the software, the instructions for the process all in one location, the list of key multiple people to call, all the reports and letters and documents needed for approval all in one location, the definitions of key terminology. But again, my guidebook is about 25 pages, and can there be clarity in 25 pages? So that's why I came up with a process map. It's a 1-pager. So in our world, everyone wants everything delivered fast, quick, and delivered right now. This process map shows legislation in 5 steps over 5 weeks from start to finish, which is over 30 days. So it gives people a quick review of what the process looked like, so they don't have to go, if they, they're not interested in reading 25 pages of detailed instructions. This is just another flow chart. I provide 2 maps of the same information, just presented differently. And of course, this is a photo. I thought I would throw in a photo of the inside of City Hall. This is an Excel spreadsheet. It's my main tool. It's a tracking log. It answers basically 2 questions: where the piece is now, where it's going, and it quickly describes the status of each piece. And of course, who's involved. It shows the details. That's we do a lot of TIFs for assistance for certain construction projects in the city of Cleveland. Introduction date, the 3 committee. Usually our pieces go to about 3 different committees, but there's more than that. There's about 5 or 6, and of course the date of passage. So this Excel spreadsheet quickly describes where the legislation is currently in City Hall. So what is an ordinance? City Council is the elected body responsible for writing and enacting laws. The laws are known as ordinances. Ordinances govern the actions, responsibilities, and tax dollars of residents, businesses, and organizations for city departments and visitors in Cleveland. Many ordinances authorize the city to spend money on contracts and projects that to support the mission of Cleveland. And of course, the ordinance represents, it is the end result of the legislation process. And when the end result, the last stage, in effect, it becomes law. And so this is a picture of the last reading, the room where the last reading takes place. It happens on Monday nights at 7 p.m. That's the final stage, the 5th week of the process, when the legislation process turns into an ordinance. So my goal, so one of the challenges of this process is that there's a lot of change. In the past 10 months, we've had 3 different directors. My first director approved my project, which detailed the legislation process in 25 pages. My next director said, you know, I don't really want to read 25 pages, just give me a 1-pager. And so this guidebook will have both, you know, it'll hopefully appease people, you know, who want the details, and then also the people who just want the higher level review of the process. This, again, ordinances are the last stage of the legislation process. This is a picture of an ordinance. It's not too exciting, but it is law. They're recorded in the city record. You can access them online. You can look them up by the ordinance number, but this shows this was funds provided to the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. It shows the administrative, who reviewed it in the administrative review, where the directors, each director has to sign off on this ordinance. And then finally, like the 4th and 5th week, it's the committee review. And in this case, development, planning, and sustainability is one committee. Finance committee is the next committee, and then on Monday night, it's passed into law. So this one, on an annual basis, we give money to the Sports Commission, and there's an ordinance for that. So because the process is repeated over and over again, over time, I assume others know the process and know when to go to committee meetings, and that's when mistakes are made, is assuming that other people know what the process is. And so, and of course, assuming what people know what to do next. So there's continuous improvements that can be made from proper and repetitive communication. So and of course, you know, the challenge is assuming that other people know what's going on and that communication has taken place. The best part of the project is that it is free. I don't have to purchase software. I don't have to pay anyone or purchase anything. The report is only going to take time. So currently I'm still cleaning up the report, but it will be done by the November 20th deadline. And another positive aspect is that my project is going to be easy to implement. All I have to do is email it to other people to explain the process. So that is my project. I will be open to any questions at this point.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was amazing. Great job. I love your images.
Yeah, great.
I know you worked hard on adding all that stuff.
Yeah, I threw in the images because I thought it's hard to describe a process and make it interesting when you just put when it's just a bunch of words. So I thought throwing in a couple of images of what the process looked like would be kind of helpful.
It was very helpful, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Awesome job. Rob, do you have any comments before I open it up?
I do. First of all, I want to tell everybody that Stephanie actually did her presentation for my office, and you did a fantastic job. Actually, my dean just texted me and said the performance, went up on the meter like 1,000 percent. So he's wondering what's going down in my office. So I just say thank you for using my office and doing a fantastic job. Also, I want to say, Stephanie, that I love your project because PMA is about process improvement and it's about me being more efficient and effective with your work. And as I work with a lot of government agencies, there is a lot of ambiguity of how things get done. And it's one thing if, if someone's been there for 30, 40 years, they got it down and it's no big deal. But in the day and age now where we got the baby boomers retirement, the great resignation, and where people are changing, if you don't have that institutional memory and knowledge and something written down, you're in big trouble. And not only just to have it documented, but to actually so that for future use, but to streamline the process to effectively communicate it to all levels, both like at your peer level and then in the leadership and the administrative part of things, and also the elected officials. I think it's brilliant. And I just want to say that I think this is a classic PMA project, and thank you for going through that extra effort. I know putting together a 25 or whatever 23-page document and manual is painstaking and very laborious. And I just want to say thank you for doing it and congratulations. And you're just going to leave a long-term positive legacy because you're going to be able to help future members of your team, do their jobs better. So just want to say thank you.
I appreciate you pointing out, because the ambiguity was the biggest I guess, challenge. Nothing was really defined. Everything was on separate pieces of paper, and it's so hard to describe that. But yeah, making clarity out of ambiguity was my goal.
And the reason why I'm not saying that for your particular department or anything in municipality, I just hear that comment a lot from different stakeholders we work with. We've got to figure out, well, we got to get things down more on paper and documented, these processes. And I think it's just the perfect way to do that within your department. So congratulations. Alex, I'm sorry, Alex, my bad. I'm half asleep. Do we have any questions?
So far, no questions in the question and answer box. I do have a couple comments. I'd like to ask the audience, please ask a couple questions. If someone would put some in there, that would be awesome. In the meantime, I'll read the comments. Yana said, great job. She's from our new cohort in PMA 12. Thanks for being here, Yana. And then John said, Stephanie, it seems like you do the work of 10. Way to streamline it for the next group of people. Great work. And I think we all understand what he's saying there, and we agree. It was really awesome, Stephanie. Great job. Anybody else? Please, questions in the chat, questions in the question and answer box. Anybody? I actually have a question for Stephanie. When you were working on this, or you articulated this with your team members or folks that you are connected to, what was their take on it? And the second part is, do you think that there's any other opportunities for these type of manuals or process improvements within your department or folks that you work with across the city?
Well, I have other people in my department who would like to learn the process. So right now, it's just me. But if I were sick, or if something, if I don't know, if I were to leave, I would need to somehow quickly educate someone else in the department. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm done, I'm just going to hand over the guidebook to the next person and see if they can quickly learn it. And hopefully I'm going to give it to other people in City Hall and see what they say. So my goal is to do that before November 20th and get everybody's feedback and see what it looks like. I hope I answered your question. So
I guess, yeah, you did. And I guess we can talk offline, but you're in economic development, right? That's your department, that's your work with?
yes.
I've been working a lot with the community development department, and they are looking to do some, process improvement like this. So I don't know if you have any contacts over there, but if you don't mind, I'd like to share your contact, or at least this project idea, and say, here's an example of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Because I think there's some opportunities there you could take advantage of.
Well, I plan to share it with community development as well. There's somebody in community development I'm gonna share this with, because the thing is, there's still issues that pop up with the legislation process. Like there's a new fund of money that popped up, and it's pushed through by other departments, but it has to go through economic development. But if we're not aware of the funds that's there, it's hard to describe. So the legislation still has to be processed, even though I'm not even aware of that pot of money being there. So it's hard to describe, but so that recent issue popped up, and hopefully I can include that in the guidebook as well.
Yeah, it's great. I have one more comment, and I'm not sure if there's anybody else had anything, but the other comment I had is when I first started doing this job or this work 20 years ago, folks like yourselves were not willing to share this information across the corporation because they were worried that if I give away the keys to the cabinet, or if I tell them all the secrets of how I do my job, then I'm going to get fired and laid off, and they're going to get rid of my position or whatever. So the reason I bring that up is there used to be, I don't know, the culture really was in a negative state of mind. And so I think that individual employees were really hesitant to be able to put something out there because they thought, well, if I give away this information, I'm going to lose my value. And I guess my point is, I know that is not the case anymore, and I want to say congratulations for stepping out and saying, wait a minute, I need to share this. I have a bigger responsibility than just doing this job. I have, responsibility to the future people or my partners and the legacy that you're going to leave to the city. So I'm just saying, like, it is really a breath of fresh air that what you're doing here, from the not just the tactical project that you created, but the approach and the willingness to share. And I hope that continues to change the culture, with where you're at right now. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay,
Pat.
we do have quite a few questions now in the chat. Are you ready?
All right, shoot.
Okay, so this one's a pretty quick one. How long has the original process been in place? That's from Brandon.
Well, it's been in place ever since I think this has been going on for years. So the process the length of the process hasn't changed. And I've been there 10 years. So it hasn't changed since I've been there. It's just who you contact in City Hall to get things done. That changes with every new administration.
Thank you. We have a comment from Adrian Sheffer. She says, from personal experience, having a manual for processes such as this is extremely helpful. This was a great idea and will be very beneficial.
Thank you.
From Diane Heyman, will the guidebook also be available to those who need it online? And how will updates be made when software changes?
Well, it probably won't be done online because that if I made it available online, that would require the mayor's approval, and I'm not sure how I would get that. That might be a little bit too far ahead. It's possible, but then when software changes, it's going to have to be updated by someone. That could be me or the next person in line.
Thank you, Stephanie. We have a question from Zakia Wright, and she is in PMA 12. Will this manual be shared with city council officials, or is this for internal use only?
Well, right now it's internal use only, but if other people, because people, when you need help, we share it, and then it could end up in council's lap, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to keep it internal, but it could explode if it's really useful, which is what my goal is, and it does provide clarity. The success of the report would be that it's shared with everybody in City Hall.
Great.
And beyond. So
Zakia also said, amazing presentation. Thank you. And then we have one more from Christy Hunt. How do you follow along with the updates in the process? I noticed you use a spreadsheet, but that is a lot of manual updating and keeping track on top of all your other duties.
well, that's true. But usually legislation there's certain days that it's passed and presented to committees. So once it hits the committee, you get a break. And then you wait for the next committee. So it is constant motion. And it does require a lot of emails. But it's kind of like it's like a live being. You just kind of have an awareness of where it's at. And that's where the ambiguity to other people come in. Because with my experience, I understand where the piece is right now. But to explain that to somebody else is hard until they get, but the guidebook hopefully will give them that transparency for the process.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. Everyone, the evaluation is in the chat. If you could please fill that out, that would be great. And we are going to pause. So our next presentation, we have a break slated from 10:15 to 10:30. Realize we're running a little ahead of schedule, which is very unlike us, but great. So you actually get a full half-hour break. So take a break, and when we get back, we will have John Kulcherlich next. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you for the
Still on a
question.
half hour.
Welcome back, everyone. We are getting into the next phase of the presentations. And next up here is Mr. John Kotterlich, and he is from Painesville Township. His project is titled Painesville Township Storm Sewer Mapping on a GIS System. And I'm excited to hear more about your project, John. I know that with the way the environment is lately, with all these hurricanes, floods, and natural disasters, that flooding is happening all around us. Knock on wood, hopefully it's not hitting your back door, but if it does, you're going to want to have John's system in place so that they can come and help you as soon as possible. So,
hey, Rob, I did want to mention that one of our OCPM board members is here, Daryl Graves. I don't know if you want to take a second to introduce him.
oh, yeah, great. So, Daryl is one of our newest members of the OCPM Estate Advisory Board. Daryl is a graduate of the OCPM program from the former administration, and he's coming in to join us this year as an opportunity to make a connection with the former program and the current one. So to really a bridge between those two. Daryl has also been a great advocate and a champion for us. So Daryl, I'm not sure if you want to say any words to say hello to anybody or any words of encouragement or anything that you've observed so far, but if you want to say anything, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I just would like to say good morning to everyone. I appreciate Rob and Kat and all the folks who make the program so great. And good luck to all the participants today. I'll be sitting in for a couple of presentations. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Daryl, and thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your advocacy and being a champion. Daryl's been a champion for the program for a long time. We're starting to see some folks from the Ohio Department of Rehab and Corrections coming in. That's where he is an administrator at, and just really appreciate your leadership. So thanks for joining us today, and you're welcome to stick around as long as you can, and thanks for making the time for us now. So, all right, thanks for the heads up, Kat. I did not see that.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, John, you ready?
Hello, everybody. I'm John with Painesville Township Service Department. My project was mapping out the storm sewer for Painesville Township on GIS. Painesville Township, we have about 18,000 residents, 200 miles of road with several hundred miles of storm sewer infrastructure. There's only 11 of us on the service department, including the service director and myself. One of the problems we were facing was everybody was retiring. All the infrastructure was, a lot of it was memory where stuff was installed at, and guys retiring and new hires, they didn't know where it was at. So it was kind of becoming a problem with what we were doing. So obviously when it's not raining, the basins are quite easy to find, and there's no issues at all. But when we do get 12 inches of rain in about 12 hours like we did in 2006, they're hard to find then, and they're even harder to find afterwards when all the debris and everything is over top of them. So I asked the administration if I could map this out on a GIS system and create a program for not only the guys that work here, but also the residents of the township as well. So that's the steps I went through. I actually contacted the community college with their GIS program and hired an intern. He started here May 1st. We bought all the tablet laptops that he needed. Got him out in the field. I worked with him. Started collecting data, started logging it. And it was fully reimbursed by the stormwater department through the county. So it didn't cost the township any money at all. So every day we get calls after the storm, after a rain event about, I got more water on my property. Where is it coming from? Where is it going? Why are you letting these people build here? So it's just becoming a bigger problem every year with bigger rain events that we're having. Here's how it's trending over the last, since 1950. It's just more and more of just 2-inch rainfalls and plus are just, they're more common, more frequent. There's just seems like just a general rain anymore. Everybody just, it rains and the phone calls just come in. So we get called out then to go look at these issues, and with a newer crew, they're just not able to find the basins, or they're calling myself or the service director, and we're going out and we're trying to find stuff. A lot of them was installed before I started here in 2000. So I don't know where they're all at either. I try to, but there's just stuff's been covered up over the years, and new stuff gets added that we don't know about. So this is going to help tremendously. So this is a Heatherstone subdivision, 1973. Not a house around. Fast forward to 2023, it's completely developed. There's 400 to 500 homes in there, I would say, and just all the inlet basins. There's backyard drainage. There's drainage easements for inlet basins in backyards, and those have never been maintained by homeowners. So we mapped all that out, size of piping, what the structures are, if they're precast, if they're plastic, if they're brick. So we get mapped all that out. So all those dots are main lines, all the different inlet basins. So on the GIS, when the guys go out in the field, they'll be able to pull that up, click on it, and it'll tell you the length of the pipe, what size basin, what it's made out of, and a picture of the basin and where it's located at on the property as well. So myself and the service director will have access to it, and we'll be able to add any new drainage systems that go in, laterals that go in, size of basins. In the third picture, that's a drainage easement through somebody's backyard. We'll be able to identify that. Going forward now, guys will be able to pull that up on their phones as well as residents. So when we do get a call, we don't need to call the county and ask, where's this at? We'll be able to give a quicker response to the homeowner on, yeah, that's ours. There's an easement here. We can take care of it. Or sometimes we end up telling them, no, it's your responsibility. It's on private property. It was a privately installed line 20 years ago. Here's an example. We added some new basins, tied it into the main, so we'll be able to add all that stuff going forward as well. Training on all the software and new equipment that we've purchased over the last couple of years to maintain the storm sewers has been done. I wanted it, this was going to be a 1-year project, but the intern we hired, he was on top of it. And between him and I working together, we actually completed the whole thing by about the middle of August, with identifying over 4,000 inlet basins and mapping all the pipe out, which I was pretty pleased with. A couple examples of how it's worked already. a homeowner had called after the crew had been out asphalting and said there was a basin on the corner of the road that had been covered up with asphalt that the crew didn't know about. He's like, that's somewhere in there. Well, the intern had found it earlier in the spring and it just got washed over with debris and everything. They asphalted over it. So we went out, pinned it, and was able to locate it. And sure enough, it was asphalted over. And so it's already paying off. Another good example is in that same subdivision in Heatherstone, the guy was having some problems with flooding, and we went down there to look and couldn't find where the outfall was at. And the service director, he's been here for 45 years, and we got on the map and we found one that nobody knew was even there. Somehow or another, that intern traced the pipe and found it and uncovered it way back in the woods. And so yeah, it's already paying off quite well. And then along with the app for the residents, they're going to be able to log in, go to submit a complaint, and then it'll take them to a form where they'll be able to name, address, type of problem, just, and then they'll describe it. They'll actually be able to pin their property with a pin on the GIS, and then all that will get submitted to the township. I'll receive the email, be able to send a crew out, and we'll determine then if it's something we're fixing right then, if it's a small problem, or if it's something that's going to be addressed in the future that we'll do a work order for and get back with the resident going forward with that. Eventually on this, we're going to have a spot where the contractors will be able to log in and submit any maps that they have or plans of where they're doing backyard drainage at or new infrastructure, submit to us, and then we'll be able to have a map of privately owned lines too going forward for when a property sells and somebody calls and, I have a base in my backyard, where's it go? We'll be able to pull it up and find out where it goes, who put it in, when they put it in, what kind of pipe and size. But that's a little further down the road we're still working out the details of that. And that's everything I have.
Thanks, John. I think this is an amazing project. I was saying earlier about, I hear these floods and all these terrible natural disasters that's going around here. And I know that with your growth and expansion, that's part of it as well. But have you started the actual website? Like, is that interactive yet, or when is that? What's the details with?
It will be done by probably by the next trustees meeting on October 24th. We'll have that all going.
Yeah.
The app is up and running on everybody's phone at the township. They've been trained on it, and they use it more than they thought they were going to use it, actually.
So for right now, it's internal use only as far as the app and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yes, the community is not aware of this yet.
No, not until probably the end of the month they'll be able to have access to it.
What is the communication plan for that? Do you have anything in mind?
We'll put it on our social media. We have a service department Facebook page. All the trustees have their own Facebook page. The township website, we'll put it all out on that, and it'll probably go out in the newsletter as well.
Is there any kind of training or instruction manual or any kind of like tips sheet that needs to be included so that they know how to process any kind of inquiries? Or, I mean, maybe I'm overthinking it, but is there anything that the consumer has to know about?
I don't believe so. It's pretty self-explanatory once you get onto the mapping system. It's a kind of a step-by-step process already that we put on there.
That's great. And do you have any kind of continuous improvement like initiatives put in place or review to see how things are working? Any thought on that?
So I ask the guys all the time when they're out, how is it? What can we change? They were a little apprehensive at first, a couple of the older guys here anyway, but now it's everybody just every time they go out on a drainage job, they're pulling it up, they're looking at it, and they're really liking it. So the crew leader's getting ready to retire in 24. the new crew leader, he'll be trained a little bit more on the system, be able to add infrastructure to on that part of it, but he has not, the new crew leader has not been trained on it yet, but he will be.
Well, that's fantastic. Thanks again and congratulations. I'm going to leave some space because I can just get motor mouth in it, and I need to leave some space for the rest of the community if they want to contribute. Kat, do we have any comments or questions?
Yes,
Or-
we do. First of all, John, I think it's really cool you found one that they didn't know existed. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so I have Corey just wanted to comment. Great job, John. I have Adrian Shepper saying her question is, how many submissions have you received through the web link so far?
So we haven't received any because it's not up and running. It won't be done until about the end of October, made. Well, it's done, but it won't be made until for the public until then.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. We have a question from Diane Heyman. What type of succession planning is being done? Are you considering adding sewers? So two-part question.
Oh yeah, we have a subdivision that just got approved about a month ago. It's going to be the biggest subdivision in Lake County. It's a 400-acre subdivision, so it's going to be kind of a multi-use between. I think there's going to be between 600 and 700 single-family homes, along with some business and assisted living, and then they're going to build a town center. So all of that will be added to it. The service director, he's retiring in about 18 months, and I'll be moving up to his position. So yeah, as we move forward, guys will be trained and new hires will be trained on it as we move forward. So
Right. Thank you, John. And then we also have Brandon asked, are the residents responsible for fixes on their property, or does the city handle it?
so if it's in road right away, we normally handle it. If there's a drainage easement that is deeded to us, we handle it. But if it's any backyard stuff, we look at it, and generally the resident is responsible for handling that themselves.
Thank you. And then we have Alex Hansel commented, awesome job, great topic. And I think that wraps it up for the questions today, John. You did an amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congrats, John, and welcome to the Leadership Academy, that you're in, and I'm looking forward to continue to work with you. And so you're off the hook as far as this part, but I got to wrap up Leadership Academy. And
Okay. It's been a great experience. I appreciate everything.
Thank you. Great job. Awesome. Well, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Why don't we take let's see, we're 11:05 is our next presentation. Why don't we take 10 minutes and come back at 11 o'clock, and then we'll bring Alex up to rock and roll.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We're back. Our next presenter today is Alex Hansel, and Alex is from Bainbridge Township. His project is Bainbridge Township Service Department Safety Training Program, recurring training for service department employees. All right, Alex, it's all yours.
Good morning. My name is Alex Hansel, and I work for the Bainbridge Township Service Department as the Assistant Service Director. I've worked for Bainbridge Township for 6 years and have 17 years of experience in the field of public service. Bainbridge Township is a community in the southwest region of Geauga County with roughly 13,000 residents and 84 miles of roadway. Our service department is made up of 19 employees, with 13 of those employees working in the field every day. Our department takes great pride in providing a high level of service to our residents through an extensive road maintenance program, which includes asphalt repair and paving, ditching, driveway and crosspipe maintenance and replacement, and snow and ice removal. We also offer a well-established park system with such amenities as walking paths, disc golf, sports fields, picnic pavilions, and rental facilities capable of accommodating large groups year-round in a beautiful country setting. Today, I'll be presenting my Public Management Academy Cohort 10 project, which will focus on recurring safety training for service department employees. In the scope of our day-to-day work at the service department, employees are subject to encounter a number of dangerous situations. It is important to keep employees aware of best practices and current technology when it comes to performing their job in the safest, most efficient manner possible for their well-being and the well-being of the public. These standards are also important in the unfortunate event a safety incident does occur, that the township can properly defend itself in potential litigation. Finding time for regular safety training sessions is a difficult task given our full construction schedule in the summer months and our unpredictable schedule around snowfall in the winter months. Training our people in-house to be certified instructors in these areas will be an important aspect of this program, as it will allow us to be flexible when planning training sessions to take place on rainy days in the summer and clear days in the winter. This project not only seeks to increase the frequency of our training sessions, but to establish a culture of training at the service department by prioritizing professional development as a regular and ongoing occurrence. This project was selected as a result of the Public Management Academy Cohort 10's assignment to identify an area within our organization that could use improvement. After some thought, I concluded that we needed more focus on safety training. I presented this idea to my department head in November of 2022, and he agreed that it would be beneficial for the service department to become more organized when it comes to training sessions. Over the next year, I began researching available training topics that we could benefit from, trainers and sessions that were available, and began anticipating what a year of training sessions would look like, mixed in with all the other important tasks we have to accomplish each year at the service department. Moving forward into 2024, I will begin implementing this training program by scheduling and completing sessions, gaining responses from the attending employees, and then reflecting on the outcome in terms of scheduling, quality of presentations, and impact. A SWOT analysis of this project helps to highlight some of the expectations of this program. Strengths are being well funded. This provides a strong foundation for the program's success. Adequate funding also affords high-quality training materials, up-to-date technology, and experienced trainers. The service department also has access to owned facilities, making it easy to accommodate training sessions without needing additional arrangements. Weaknesses. While training sessions are not new to the service department, extensive recurring programs are. There may be a lack of experience designing, implementing, and evaluating such initiatives. Employees may resist the training program if they are not open to learning new skills and feel that regular training is a disruption to their regular work. Balancing service projects with training sessions will pose a challenge, especially during busy periods for the department. Potential opportunities include an opportunity to enhance employees' skills, making them more proficient in their roles and potentially improving the overall efficiency of the department. Training can introduce new techniques, technologies, and best practices that employees can use to improve their work processes and approaches. Participating in training sessions led by OSHA and the Bureau of Workers' Compensation offer funds towards improving safety equipment and materials or offer discounts to yearly fees. Threats that could affect the program. While the department is currently well funded, there is always the possibility that funding could change in the future, impacting the sustainability of the training program. Other projects and tasks might take precedence over training sessions, leading to reduced attendance or distracted participants. Some employees might resist the training, feeling that their current methods are sufficient or fearing that new skills could make their regular work more complicated or challenging. Without proper follow-up and reinforcement, the skills acquired in the training program might not be effectively integrated into daily tasks. Traffic control and work zone safety. Service department crews and equipment are a constant presence on township roads. Trucks and equipment must utilize the roadway when performing asphalt repairs, ditch maintenance, driveway culvert replacement, among other tasks. Maintaining updated technology and procedures helps to keep employees and the traveling public safe while navigating construction zones and roadway hazards. Residents of the township are not the only stakeholders attached to this important function of our department. With US Route 422 running almost directly through the middle of our township, our roads see higher numbers in terms of traffic compared to surrounding areas. First responder training, electricity. In most cases, power lines affected by windstorms are carrying up to 7,200 volts. Service department employees are told never to remove a tree that is entangled in any utilities suspected to be power lines. However, they may be asked to put up road closed signs or cones, and this may require approaching the general area of a downed power line. Downed wires can energize other nearby objects such as fences, water lines, bushes and trees, buildings and telephone, cable TV, and fiber optic cables. Even manhole castings and rebar and pavement and concrete can become energized by downed wires. Keeping crews aware of these hazards is of the utmost importance in order to assure the safety of our employees while they navigate these often chaotic weather events. Chainsaw and wood chipper training. Each year, there are approximately 36,000 chainsaw-related accidents. Service department employees are frequently utilizing chainsaws and wood chippers to clean up storm damage, clear areas for new projects, and to maintain township properties. Proper operation training and PPE, including chainsaw chaps, hard helmets, and hearing and eye protection, are essential to protect operators from these common injuries. We utilize a certified arborist to conduct our chainsaw and wood chipper trainings. Cargo securement. Service department employees frequently transport materials and equipment using trucks and trailers in order to complete various work orders. When transporting materials or equipment to the job site, it is the driver's responsibility to tie down the load properly, securely, and legally. Loose cargo can pose dangers to other motorists, pedestrians, and property. Debris from an improperly secured load can cause accidents, road obstructions, and even fatalities for those not directly involved in the transportation. The transportation industry has established guidelines and best practices for securing different types of cargo, considering factors like load weight, type, and vehicle configuration. Adhering to these standards promotes professionalism and safety within the industry. Load rigging and material handling. Whether it be unloading and setting a precast catch basin or a section of culvert crosspipe to be placed across a roadway, service workers often find themselves working with suspended loads. Dozens of workers lose their lives in rigging-related accidents each year, and most frequently when loads slip from the rigging setup, rigging equipment fails, and when electrical lines pose hazards. It is important that workers are aware of their surroundings and familiar with proper rigging procedures when using equipment to lift heavy materials. Equipment certifications, forklift. From unloading pelletized bags of concrete, cold patch material, and receiving deliveries to loading culvert pipe, precast catch basins, or storing materials on shelving, the forklift is one of our most utilized pieces of equipment around our shop. Our main campus is made up of multiple detached structures with access openings facing all different directions. When navigating our lots on a tow motor, these blind corners can present several hazardous situations that proper training can help to mitigate. OSHA requires employers to ensure that all operators are forklift certified through formal instruction, practical training, and a performance evaluation. The service department has sent one of our service workers to become a certified forklift instructor, allowing us to certify the rest of our staff in-house every 3 years. Equipment certification, aerial lift. Another key piece of equipment at the service department is our aerial man lift. This piece of equipment can lift workers to a height of 60 feet in order to perform various tasks, such as making repairs to and painting buildings, hanging banners, pruning trees, and stringing holiday lights. Certification training provides insights into different types of aerial accidents. Upon completion, aerial lift operators can keep an eye out for hazards that can lead to these accidents. Entry-level driver training. At Bainbridge Township Service Department, it is required that service workers carry and maintain a valid commercial driver's license. It is becoming increasingly difficult to find qualified personnel to fill vacancies on our staff. Due to this factor, the service department previously brought on new people without CDL credentials, with the understanding that the new employee is required to obtain a CDL within 1 year of the hire date. This was a relatively easy process as there were no guidelines surrounding the training of an individual. The township would informally train a new hire with our trucks and available state literature, and when the employee and management agreed that there was sufficient training, we would send them to a testing facility using our truck and trailer. Beginning February 7th, 2022, drivers applying for a Class A or Class B commercial driver license for the first time must complete entry-level driver training with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration registered training provider prior to testing. This training can be expensive and time-consuming. The service department has taken the necessary steps to become a registered training provider with the FMCSA in order to train non-CDL carrying hires in-house. By designating and training one of our current service workers to be a certified trainer, we can complete this process at our own pace and in a cost-effective manner, while also providing a more extensive and in-depth level of training. Documentation. It is important to track and keep record of the topics covered and the employees that attended each safety training session. Tracking and documentation serves many purposes when it comes to a well-rounded safety program. Some examples include emergency preparedness. In the event of an emergency, having a record of employees' safety training can ensure that they know how to respond appropriately and safely. Keeping certifications current. Some required workplace safety certifications expire over time. Keeping track of when employees acquired these certifications and when they expired will ensure that the organization and employees remain compliant. Due diligence. In the event that an incident or accident does occur, these records can be used to show that the organization has taken reasonable steps to train employees in safety practices, which can serve to protect the organization from liability. Accountability. If an employee fails to follow safety protocols, training records can be used to show that the necessary training was provided, making an easier case for corrective or disciplinary actions that may be required. Incentives. Some government agencies will offer financial incentives in the form of grants or discounts on fees to organizations that maintain a robust safety program. In closing, the proposed safety training program stands as a crucial and proactive step towards enhancing the well-being and effectiveness of the service department. By prioritizing the safety of our dedicated personnel, we are not only safeguarding their lives, but also ensuring the uninterrupted delivery of essential services to our community. Through comprehensive training, continuous learning, and a culture of safety awareness, we can minimize risks, prevent accidents, and foster a work environment where every individual feels empowered to contribute their best. This program's success relies on the collective commitment of each team member, and by working together, we can build a safer, stronger, and more resilient township for our employees and the residents we serve. Thank you.
Wow. Well done, Alex. That was amazing.
Thank
So
you.
just a quick question from me. I was just curious as to when you're implementing this project, I think you said 2024 is your timeline. Just curious, is this just you, or do you have a whole team working with you for this training program?
I would say moving forward, it'll probably be mostly me. We do conduct training. This year, we've gone through a sensible salt training, confined space training, amongst a few others, and those were set up by other people. But I think moving forward, it'll be a lot on me.
Okay. Wow. Well, you have a pretty big responsibility. That's, I mean, it seems like a really, really needed topic. So I'm grateful that you're doing that to keep people safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rob, I don't know if you want to try to turn your camera or I know you're dying to say something, so you want to try and see how it goes?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave my camera off because my internet is unstable. So I just wanted to say like 3 words: drop the mic. And I think you did a fantastic job, Alex. Very thorough as far as your analysis and explanation and doing the SWOT and all the other things you threw in there. So really proud of you for demonstrating the learning over the program and then just how you went about to create this new system and compliance and training for your department. So very proud of you. Congratulations. And I don't have any questions because you, in my opinion, you knocked them all the park. So great job.
Yeah, I would have to agree with the drop the mic, Alex. Really great job. We do have
Thank
some questions in the audience. Okay, I have one from Diane Heyman. Alex, will this training be available to staff through online means? Also, the tracking sheet for the trainings and the CDL certification, will that be available to the staff?
I think the tracking stuff will mostly be internal for supervisory staff. And as far as it being online, I think there's a potential for some online training, but I think mostly it'll be in-person training.
Great. We have a question from Daryl Graves. He asked, well, he stated you expressed concerns about competing priorities. How much input did your frontline staff have in identifying training that was necessary?
A lot of input. And as far as the competing tasks that we have, it has been expressed that safety training is a priority, and moving forward, we're gonna make opportunities to get it done.
Great. Adrienne Shepard just had a comment. She just said, excellent job. Moving on, we have John Kultrlik. He asks, will this help save on workers' compensation premiums? Great job and presentation.
Thank you. I do believe it will. Some of the training sessions that we intend to sign up for should give us cost savings with OSHA and with Bureau of Workers' Comp.
Excellent. Christy Hunt commented and she says, worker safety training is so important, especially in the private sector. Good job working to catch the public sector up to where it needs to be. And then finally, we have one last question from Brandon Freeman. How many accidents have your guys had due to lack of the training in place?
We are fortunate that accidents are very minimal here. I've been here 7 years and no accidents that involved in serious injury come to mind. So our guys are already very conscious of what's happening out there.
Great. Well, sounds like you've been lucky. Okay, and then Corey just commented, amazing job, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex. That was a really amazing job. We're very proud of you over here. And good luck implementing this new safety program. I hope you keep in touch with us and let us know how it goes.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, so up next, we're going to have Corey Dorsey at 11:40. So we'll just take a couple minutes and we will circle back at around 11:35. Okay, thanks everyone. Next up is Corey Dorsey. Corey is from the Ohio Department of Public Safety. Corey's project is registration renewal process.
Good morning. My name is Corey Dorsey. I work for the Department of Public Safety. This actually is the same building that Don works at, and it's the 1970 building at Shipley. My presentation is going to be about the registration renewal process, and what that entails is just the way that people or the individuals actually renew their license or the registration stickers. I work in the mailroom at Shipley, but it's a small area, probably myself and 4 other guys, as well as the supervisor. And the supervisor is actually getting ready to retire. So to come up with this project, what I decided to do was, pick his brain, and this is one of the things he came up with as far as like people trying to, re-register their driver's license or their registration stickers. This is for mail returns. We process, deliver mail for the Highway Patrol as well as the BMV. So we get a lot of mail in. We're responsible for delivering that. But the mail returns during fiscal year of 19, the BMV received over 500,000 pieces of mail. Approximately 75% of those were returns classified as unknown or not known, deliverable as addressed. DAS contract OT 904313 requires the contract vendor, which is Pitney Bowes, pre-service to verify the addresses against the database. On an average, 12,000 of the 1,077,000 pieces of the Ohio Department of Safety, Public Safety mail processed by the DAS fulfillment each month has the addresses updated by our pre-service vendor, Pitney Bowes. The information is required to be given to us, but we currently do not use that information. My supervisor currently keeps it in a database, but based upon the way the addresses are updated, the Ohio Revised Code 4507.09 is cited as the reason, but is not forbidden to be used in the renewal process. The BMV currently pays the United States Postal Service 63 cents for each address notice letter. Many of these would be caught by the Pitney Bowes pre-service verification when warning letters are mailed. So what happens is we send those letters out and they come back to us. We go through them in the morning time and we kind of sort those. Once we get them sorted, they go to the remittance department, which is next door. They'll rescan that letter in, reprocess it, and put a final notice on it and get it back to us so we can process, meter, weigh it, and get it sent back out to the customer trying to obtain their renewal notice. On any given day, you can see right here that these are the trays of mail that actually come back in. These trays currently hold probably about 1,000 letters. These are actually the registration renewal returns, but I redacted the actual name, so to kind of keep people private. But you can see the yellow sticker on there, and sometimes we get these and multiple returns come back in. So you would say, for instance, I sent mine out and it was sent to the wrong address. It possibly might have 5 letters in one of these trays addressed to the same person, and that becomes a problem because it creates delays on the customers getting their mail, as well as an increase in postage. And what we've been seeing within these last couple of years, the postage is constantly going up by the post office, and it's been happening at least twice a year. So the mail is constantly increasing. The postage is increasing on that, so we're just trying to cut that down. We can have a reduction in postage and direct costs within maybe the next 2 years for maybe with a reduction of about 50%. Here's an example of actually what happens. A customer moves in January and submits a forwarding order to United States Postal Service, but not to the BMV. So this forwarding order stays in effect for 12 months. And in March, the BMV mails a vehicle registration renewal notice via pre-sort mail to the customer's old address so they can renew before the June 24th birthday. The statewide DAS contract for pre-sorted mail requires the vendor to verify the mailing address against the United States Postal Service forwarding order database. The verification process identifies the forwarding order, and the new address is encoded in the barcode that the vendor sprays on the envelope. A file containing all addresses that required correction is made available to the VMV, but the information is not used. Automated machinery at the post office reads the updated address barcode, and the customer receives their registration renewal notice at their new address. The next year, the BMV mails a vehicle registration renewal notice via pre-sort to the customer's outdated address again. The forwarding order with the United States Postal Service has expired, so the address is not identified and corrected by the pre-sort vendor. The letter is returned to the BMV. The customer does not receive their expiration notice through the mail and must go to the local deputy registrar to renew this registration. So you move, but you actually correct your address, or you submit a address change with the post office, but you don't do it with the BMV. So it'll stay in effect for about a year, but it goes right back to your old address, which creates a problem because then you have to go into the deputy registrar to do your registrations again when you're thinking, okay, well, my birthday is getting ready to come up. I should be receiving something from the BMV. But the information that we have is not being used by our agency, and that creates a problem with delays as well as, there being an influx and uptick in postage. I have another slide coming up with a second example that you'll see what I'm talking about. Driver has received multiple tickets and accrued 8 points on his license. The driver has moved within the last year, and submitted an address forwarding order to United States Postal Service. The BMV sends a warning letter, which is the final notice that I spoke about earlier, warning via pre-sort mail. The address is identified and corrected by the pre-sort vendor, and the notice of update address is made readily available to the Ohio Department of Public Safety. Once again, it's not used. The driver has another incident resulting in 4 more points and a suspension of his license. The suspension letter is not sent through the pre-sort vendor. It is sent through certificate mailing at the full first class rate to the outdated address. The cost of the letter is 63 cents and the certificate of mailing is $1.95, have been wasted, and the driver still driving until the next infraction. Certificate of mailing, what that does is actually we take that to the post office, attached to a letter that's sent certified, and the post office will stamp that letter and give it back. And the actual stamp that we receive says that it was mailed out. But if it's mailed to the wrong address, that party will never receive that actual notice. So we tend to get the return back. And like I said, this process, you might have 5 return letters for just one address. The current process involved in the address updates for the Ohio Department of Public Safety in fiscal year 22, Department of Public Safety mailed out more than 26.3 million letters via Pitney Bowes pre-service. 25.8 million were mailed out through the DAS fulfillment contract, costing approximately $16,254,000. 471,519 were mailed out through the Shipley Mail Center, costing about $297,000. During this time, the Shipley Mail Center received approximately 600,000 return pieces of mail. Approximately 500,000 were classified as attempted, not known, or not deliverable as addressed by the United States Postal Service. Many of these, as I spoke of, are multiple letters to the same address. The DAS contract that I spoke of earlier, they're supposed to utilize the national change of address for the process. Any outdated addresses are corrected and mail pieces are forwarded. A listing of their readily available to the Ohio Department of Public Safety. The address corrections provided by Pitney Bowes are not used to update the customer records. Talking to my supervisor, what I found out is the reason that we're not allowed to use those is our legal department states that we get the information third party. So if a customer doesn't directly notify the Bureau of Motor Vehicles of an address change or that they've moved, we're not allowed to use that information. Although we do require the information from our pre-sort vendor, for me, it makes no logical sense. If you have that information, you can actually use that. And it's being tracked by my supervisor in the database. Like I said, he's set to actually retire at the end of the year. So myself, as well as another coworker, we've been learning how to track this mail. So we can actually, keep it updated and have talks with legal about trying to change the process of this so there won't be delays. We can improve customer relations and support, as well as getting that postage down by, a cost reduction of 50%. So I think that if we actually utilize this database and it's approved by maybe somebody that's hired in my pay grade, a director or a governor, somebody in the state legislature, they can kind of pass a law. I think we can use this for all agencies, whether it be, taxation or somebody that job and family services, somebody that actually could use this. You can go into the database and you can actually pull to see if a person has moved in there, cut down on those delays. This is a chart that I put together just so you can actually see the number from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 2022. As you can see, the blue bar is 19, and we actually mailed out just over 16 million letters in 2019. But as you can see, compared to 2022, it's about 25 or 26. So 26 million. So it doubled. So there's been an increase of mail, and I don't know if it had anything to do with what was going on with COVID or what have you, but the mail has definitely increased. These are the numbers, same kind of bar graph, with the blue being fiscal year 19 and the red being fiscal year 2022. As you can see, just over $6 million were spent on postage for return postage letters. And for 2022, you can see it also doubled and it went up to about $16 million. But if we actually utilize the information that we have through our database without having to get approval, we can actually cut down on both of those. We can cut down on the delays, and we can definitely cut down on the money, and we can save the state some money. This is a SWOT analysis that I put together, and the strengths that I stated. We'll cut down on the cost of postage. We'll reduce the amount of return mail. The weaknesses for me, our legal department does not allow us to use that information that we currently get from, the post office or a pre-cert vendor, which I really don't understand. I mean, if we require a pre-cert vendor to give us that information, why are we not allowed to utilize that? But it's in our possession, and we're requiring them to give it to us. But like I said earlier, they say we're getting it from a third party source. So to me, it makes no sense to actually notify or do an updated address change to the post office. We have that information and not use it, and then have to notify the Bureau of Motor Vehicles separately for something that was already updated. The opportunities for this is the reduce of the amount of return mail by 50% in the next 2 years, and we can have a savings of $125,000 in direct costs in the next 2 years. Reduction in delays and improved communication between the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and its customers. And the threats are customers not receiving renewal notices, as well as information that we have in our possession is not obtained by the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And that concludes my presentation. So I'll open the floor for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Corey. That was great. I'm kind of shocked at the amount of mail amount of money that you're spending on postage over there. That was somewhat of an unbelievable number. And I'm also just curious. I'm curious as to, what kind of reward are you going to get for saving the state all this money? Are they going to throw you a bonus?
I'm not sure about that. But anything I could do to just, kind of cut down on the postage, and it would definitely be lovely to get a bonus, if somebody actually put some eyes on this and say, oh, well, this guy came up with this process, or, the mailroom came up with this process, maybe we could, give them a bonus. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'll keep you in the loop and up to date.
Let us know. I'm thinking, like, who can you send this to get yourself a little credit for this?
Yeah, like I said, it's beyond my pay grade right now, because the legal department kind of has our hands tied with that, so we can't actually do anything. But if somebody can get some eyes on this, maybe the governor or director or something, they can push this forward, and they can see the amount of money that could be saved just in postage. I mean, I think you'll do the state a great service.
For sure. Thank you. Okay, we do have some questions in there for you. So Brandon Freeman would like to know how many angry calls or complaints you receive about this.
Uh, well, I don't field the calls. We do get a lot of calls. I can research that number and get back to you, Brandon. I'll find out from the supervisor. But mostly, what happens is if it's in the building, another department will actually come down and we can track it through our database or our system and see actually where the letter has been, where it's gone, if it was delivered. But typically, it's usually just in-house that we get the complaints. We do get some calls from time to time, but mostly it's from the complaints within the building.
Okay, great. We have a comment from Daryl Graves. He said, excellent job explaining the potential cost reduction. And Stephanie Philibert followed up with, BMV is keeping the UPS in business. Millions of dollars of postage, can't believe it. I know, I was feeling the same way. And then let's see, John said, great project on cutting the fat. Thank goodness for self-stick envelopes. Nice job.
Thanks.
And then Diane Heyman has a question for you, a two-part question. Does the law prohibit the use of the vendor information, or does your legal department prevent your agency from using this information? We use information at our state agency.
Yeah, our legal department is the one that says that we get the information passed on to us from a third-party source, Diane, which it doesn't make sense to me because we require Pitney Bowes to actually give us that information. So if we're going to pay them for the address corrections and pay them for that information, we might as well utilize it. But it makes no sense if we're paying them for something and you have to notify us directly just of an address change. So it could just be a policy issue. But right now, I know it's just in our department or our building that our hands are tied just from the legal department.
Okay. Let's see, we have one more from Adrian comment. She says, I hope your project continues up the chain of command so this cost savings can be put into place. Like, what are the chances, just out of curiosity, what are the chances of this being able to, move forward?
I think it's a pretty good possibility that we can actually move forward. Like I said, myself, as well as my other coworker and the current supervisor are trying to have some talks with legal to get them to take the restraints off. So if we can get this done, like I said, within the next 2 years, you're going to see a drastic cut. Like you said, Kat, with the amount of postage being spent, if you can cut that in half, you're going to do everybody a great service. I mean, that state agency as well as yourself and the customer. So
For sure.
I'm definitely going to try to make it happen. So anybody that's interested, I'll try to stay in touch with you or let you know what happens.
Definitely. One more comment from Christy Hunt. Great job identifying unintended costs to taxpayers. Good luck with implementation.
Thank you.
And I'm sure Rob has something to say, so I'm going to let him unmute himself.
Lori, this is, I was like, oh my gosh, when you were going through this, this is like a dream PMA project, especially with the how you articulated the savings. And people take the costs like stamps and postage and all the other, like, for granted, like, oh, whatever, no big deal. And they see
a lot of people don't know, Rob. They just you send letters in, you send letters out, but when you actually, I know you're a numbers guy, so you actually get to see the numbers and the amount of money that's being spent on multiple letters being sent out, and it's out of the park.
it's crazy out of the park. And what I want to follow up with is, please, keep me posted for sure on where the status of this is. If for whatever reason this falls on deaf ears or it only goes so far, let me know, because I'd be happy to kind of work my channels throughout the state to see if we can make sure that, because I mean, at the end of the day, we want folks to be the whole 3 E's, the equip, empower, and execute, but also more efficient, effective with their work. And you actually identified some significant cost savings. So, we have to find a way, and our team has to find a way to make sure that this gets taken care of, so that not only you get the credit for what you did, but it actually saves the state some money. You know, that we're all on taxpayers' dime, that, or we're public servants and responsible for the efficient use of those resources. So I really appreciate you took this to heart and did a thorough analysis and identified what this great opportunity is. So congrats, and let us know. That's what we're here for. So
All right. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, really great job, Corey. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we have our last presentation for the day is Brandon, and Brandon's going to start at 12:15. So let's pause recording and we'll come back in 10 minutes at 12:10. Sound good? Awesome. So next up is Brandon Freeman. Brandon is from the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, and Brandon's project is on project cancellation reboot. Okay, Brandon, take it from here.
Yes, my name is Brandon Freeman. Like she said, I'm a self-assured external auditor for the Ohio BWC. And my project is, like she said, cancellation revamp. Next slide. Here's are the team members from the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp. Our COO is John Lowe, and our team sponsor and champion are Rex and Erica. Of course, the owner of this project is me, yours truly, and the subject matter experts are our managers and our AE4s, which are basically their team leads of all their teams in their department. And the observations will go directly to our directors of Rex and Erica and our manager, Nicole. Next slide. Cancellation revamp. My goal is to simplify the cancellation form to improve the processes for the employers and the employees within the BWC and eliminate unnecessary correspondence that we receive according to cancellations and come up with other suggestions to improve our processes. Next slide. And for the project, I used the pest analysis. From the political standpoint, it gives the employer's perception of the BWC. We have a lot of policies and guidelines and laws in place regarding workers' compensation in the state of Ohio. We are a non-composite state, which require you have workers' compensation through Ohio. You can't get it through nowhere else. And there's a lot of timely things that employers have to do with us regarding that. And from the economic standpoint, the funding from the revamp is mostly funded from our employers from Ohio that pay their premiums. We are not funded by the government. We're funded totally through our own infrastructure. And this for the project, we need the manpower to complete these processes. And from the social standpoint, we want to try to eliminate bad reps, unhappy customers, and eliminate a lot of non-compliant people that are not compliant to the rules of the state. And from the technology standpoint, we want to have a faster process, better forms, and easier for those to access. Thanks. The future state of the project, like I said, I want to make a simplified form. Hopefully the form will go in effect by next year, 2024. And I hope it to cut down the correspondence that receive with cancellations by at least 50%. And this will target our employers of the state of Ohio and also the employers that are outside the state that do jobs and work here. Next slide. And this is why the current process needs to be improved. From my eyes, we receive a lot of correspondence about cancellations from employers, and we received the form that I'm trying to revamp with a lot of the sections filled out wrong, and which makes a lot of back and forth correspondences between us and the employer. which causes us money and time, and also takes time from the staff from doing other jobs as well. And the impact on this makes the employers very frustrated with our process that we have, because certain things have to be done according to the law, and which may cause us to have bad feedback and a lot of complaints. Next slide. Here right now is a graph that I made. These are the cancellations that were from January 22 through January 2023. And at the bottom, as you can see, there's 79 batches. How we receive our cancellations are through batches. And these are the batches that we all received through all out last year. And they can go from 1 all the way up to 2,091 cancellations that we received into any given batch at a time. Only thing I would like to change for this type of thing, I wish we can have the different type of correspondence we receive broke down into the batches so we know which ones receive. And I'll explain that later in the next slide. The total cancellations that we received in last year was 19,563, and these were either by the form, the web, or by a letter sent in requesting to cancel their policies. And on average, we receive about 16,000 cancellations per year, and this was found out in our recent all teams meeting. Next slide. And these are the 4 voices that comes to mind for the customer, organization, the process, and employee. From the customer, this form is confusing. What sections do I fill out? What boxes do I select? We used to hear this all the time from customers calling in, complaining about the form, how they don't like it. And my thoughts is we need to revamp the form, because of course we get tired of people sending in sending in the form with some wrong sections filled out, and this makes our job a little bit more harder and makes us go back and forth. And the wastes of the process, basically, we're tired of seeing the form sent in with not the right section sent out. So, and this returns, we have to send another form back to the employer. Sheesh. Next slide. Now, this is the current form that we have in place for the cancellation process. This is page 1, as you can see right here. Go to the next slide. This is page 2, and this is page 3. Next slide. And this is the last page, page 4. And you can go to the next slide. Thank you. And here's one of my dislikes on the current form. I feel like it's too busy, too much information. I feel like a lot of people don't really read these days, so I feel like this kind of discourages people and leads to people filling out the wrong sections. And I feel like it needs to be simplified a little bit more. And also, I feel like the form should be at least 4 sections or less. Next slide. On page 2, I would recommend, this is my vision, I would remove section 1 completely, and also section 2, because I feel like that part of the form should have its own form pretty much to change and update the information for the names and the sole proprietors and the partnerships of the corporation. I feel like it shouldn't be in the same form as cancellation. I feel like it's not needed. And removing this can make the form that much simpler for the employers. Next slide. And this is page 3. I feel like this section needs to be updated. Section 1 needs to be updated. Section 2 should remain on the form, but section 2 and 3 should be combined. So we'll make it more condensed. The next slide. And this is the last page. I feel like section 1 needs to be updated and more simplified for the customers because this is the most important key section for cancellations. And I feel like it could have been separated into 2 sections, but since it's got a business sold and purchase kind of the same thing, so it kind of can stay, but I will show you later on that what I came up with. Section 2 can remain on the form because it has to deal with canceling other state coverages. And of course, Section 3 needs to remain on the form because that's the most important part that we need. We need that John Hancock. Next slide. And here's the first concept I came up with for the new form. I of course, I updated the font and also updated the name to the notification, the policy update and cancellation, because an original name cancellation wasn't even on the name. Of course, I put our new Ohio Bureau of Recovery Conflict request that we have received. I removed the first section from the original section for the policy for the form. And I feel like it just removing that first section and simplified the form, it made it look much cleaner. Next slide. On the first page, I basically updated it to section A to just basically just updating the owner's officer information, no other information. Then I combined the physical and primary physical locations for the businesses all in one section, so it wouldn't be 2 separate sections. Next slide. And for this section, section C, for the most important cancellation part of the section, I highlighted the most important sections in bold lettering. I kept the purchase agreement on, like I said, because I feel like it goes along with the business sold section. So I kept that part on there. And like I said before, I kept the section D and F on the form because those are all part of the cancellation processes. Next slide. And here's my concept 2, what I came up with. And this form is strictly just for cancellations. I changed the name strictly just for policy cancellations. I removed 3 sections from the original form and basically made it straightforward, strictly for cancellations. Next slide. And here is the most important to me. That's why I made this form the most simple as can be. I just made it strictly 2 sections. Maybe you have to fill out and just highlighting like that. This is all you need because a lot of people just don't understand what everything else was on there in the old form. So I made it strictly just for cancellation, nothing else, no updates, nothing else that was needed. So basically the new form only has 2 sections, including the signature section. Next slide. And my thoughts on these concepts, I feel like they will make the customers and employers less confused from the original because I feel like it was too much going on, overbearing for them to understand. I kept the same format as the original because that's kind of goes along with the original formats that we usually have for all our state forms. And this is my visions that I would have for the form to just make it simple as possible for the employers. And the reason why I made 2 concepts was because I made the first concept to closely resemble the original, and the second concept is strictly my vision of it, strictly only having it as just as cancellation. And that's all. Next. And here's the feature of cancellations that we have going on right now with the Bureau. That's right now they're in the testing phase of a new online form for cancellations, which causes a straight through process which cancels their policy in real time. So they don't have to worry about going back and forth with us correspondence. And right now that's in the testing And hopefully in the future, I can combine my visions of the new form, how it should look, with our head team managers to come up with a new form that we can put in place for all their employers so they can have a better experience with counselor policies and less headache for both the employers and the employees. Next. That's the end. Has anybody have any questions?
Great job, Corey. Thank you so much. So what are the chances that these forms are going to be implemented?
I would say it has a good chance because that's what our partners are focusing on right now, is to revamp the cancellation process, because that's one of our big things we have to deal with on a yearly basis. So I hopefully can be able to combine both of my visions with their visions and come up with a good one.
Right. I mean, I think that your changes were huge. I mean, just from my perspective, looking at the original forms, I would agree those were pretty confusing and way too many words. So I think that the changes that you made looked really great. Stephanie Philibert said the form is intimidating, especially the first page. So she was talking about the original, obviously.
Yes.
Corey said, great job, Brandon. Seems like the numbers are all over the place. Are there certain times of the year when cancellations are higher? First question.
Yes, Corey. Our policy years usually run from August to August. So around August is the time people mostly cancel before their new year starts. So that's the most busy time pretty much for the year.
Okay. Let's see. We have another question from Diane. Is there a requirement that an employer in the state of Ohio have the account on the BWC's website?
It's not a requirement, but we definitely push the employers to have an online account because it kind of makes everything easier. But to me, for this purpose, I made this form was for all the old school employers that don't like to be on the computer, that like to do stuff still with the paperwork and stuff like that. So that's the purpose of why I did this.
Great. And then we have, let's see, we have a comment from Adrian Shepard. Great job. Definitely a process which needed significant improvement. So definitely an agreement on that. Any other questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A box for me. In the meantime, I'm sure Rob has some comments. Rob, would you like to go for it?
Yes, I was so pumped up, Brandon, when you used the pestle and also that you put the Lean Six Sigma stuff in there. I was like, oh man, that was fantastic. And that is a classic Lean Six Sigma project there with redoing the forms. So I just want you to know that I caught that is wonderful, that you obviously, put together a much improved form and application and took out a lot of that waste and confusion. But I just want to say that I recognize the fact that you implemented the tools from the sessions and from the course to put together a much more efficient process and better product. So congratulations there. And hopefully this gets fully implemented and you continue to look for other ways, because I'm sure that just is one of a million forms that you can possibly use this for. So fantastic.
Yes,
yeah, just getting the party started. It might give you a headache. Might be by saying that, but it's the truth though. And I appreciate my point is that it's just that instead of saying, oh, well, deal with it. It ain't my job, fill out the stupid form, leave me alone. You're like, nope, let's take a look at this. And I think you're just going to be able to provide better service both internally and externally. So that's what we're here about. So congratulations.
We do have one more comment from Christy Hunt. Good job. Reporting to the state and dealing with the government is stressful for small businesses. They need to get on with running their business and not be tied up in red tape. Thank you for this great improvement. My family of small business owners thanks you. Thank you, Christy. That was great. All right, Brandon, awesome job today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great work. Well, I'm not sure if Kat, you have any closing remarks, but can I say mine first and then you can jump in for the next?
Sure.
Kat is kicking me off the team, so I just gotta say something before I'm out of here, before she says I'm not allowed to show up next week. But I just want to tell you that from the bottom of my heart, I'm just overwhelmed with and filled with joy and very proud. I think I feel like a proud dad today. You all did an amazing job, knocked it out of the park. I think this demonstrated change and improvements, and took this assignment very seriously. I really hope that your projects get implemented and continue to evolve. Please keep us posted on them. And I guess I don't want to put any pressure on the day two folks, but the bar is very high. And that's a credit to the folks that went today. But thank you, just amazing. And I think, again, drop the mic is the only phrase that I can come up with if I have to summarize today. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Kat, for the finishing remarks and next steps. But you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you, hopefully, if she lets me, on the 20th. So, Kat, back to you.
Okay, so I just want to echo Rob and say just wow, the projects were amazing, and I am so honored to be a part of this team and to watch you all from the start to finish. And these finished projects are I just hope that you're all really proud, because I know that there were some hiccups and some bumps along the road, but everyone, you really impressed us, and yeah, drop the mic. So we do have our next presentation day is October 20th. So the time shifts just slightly. So just make sure that you check that Outlook invite. I think this time start might be just slightly different and time end slightly different, but we're talking like 15-20 minutes. So not a big deal. Make sure that you filled out all the evaluation forms today. If for some reason that there was one or two that you did not get to, if you can send me an email, I can directly email you that evaluation. I would like, especially for all PMA 10 members, to fill out an evaluation for each person. That's really important. So that's going to help everyone with their the final written report, especially, and maybe making any tweaks to their project moving forward, because it seems like everyone really wants to continue and implement the projects, which really is amazing, and we're just so proud of everything and all the hard work that you have done. And then I think that's it. So evaluations, email me if you need them. We'll see you on the 20th. If you have any questions or comments before then, you know how to reach us. Please make sure, those of you that have not sent me your PowerPoint presentation and you are presenting on the 20th, please email me that. As you can see today, we did have to utilize one of those. So just make sure that you get that done in case we get in a jam, okay? And aside from that, have an awesome weekend, everyone. And please tell your friends and family how awesome you are, because you are. Thank you.